Today, I'm talking to Amanda Field Jordan, an associate broker at Sotheby's International Realty and the #1 Sotheby's International Realty team for 16 years running, the Field team. The Field team is a global team based in Manhattan and founded by Amanda's mother, real estate icon and former Jere Metcalf Podcast guest, Nikki Field. Prior to joining Sotheby's International Realty, Amanda spent 5 years at the Capstone Partnership, where her main focus was on recruiting senior executives for investment banking, corporate strategy, and business development positions. Prior to Capstone, Amanda was at Morgan Stanley for 7 years, where she served as a vice president and headed the sales, trading, and research talent acquisition unit for both executives and campus hires. Amanda shares her experiences, what she has learned, and how she saw and harnessed opportunities joining the Field team. We talk about how to manage your career like a business. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast was created for real estate agents across the country to come together, sharing ideas to take your, their, and our business to the next level. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf Podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And on the show today is Amanda Jordan, recently on the show with her partner and who happens to be her mother, Nikki Field, with the Field team, New York City of Manhattan. Sotheby's International Realty. Amanda, thanks for coming on again.
Thanks so much for having me, Jere. So excited to be back.
So it's so excited to have you back. We're going to talk today about, obviously the last time we talked about working in a family business, how you and Nikki work together, starting the team. Everybody, most of the listeners are familiar with your team, but the Field team, you guys are doing how many hundreds of millions a year?
We did this year for 2020. We were ranked the #1 team in New York, so we did very well.
And you're the #1 team at Sotheby's. I think it's been for a few years running.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we were able to squeeze it out in 2020 as well. So we're really proud of all the hard work that we were able to accomplish this year.
I mean, that's amazing. So, and you've broken a few records. Just a few. I've named them on the last podcast. Nikki's intro was like 2 minutes long, so I could get all the records all broken. And
I'm sure she'll announce them all with her foghorn. Not to worry.
I love it. That helps the business for everybody, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and talk about kind of revisit. You are a part of the Field team, and you came in on the team in what year? How many years ago?
Almost 6 years ago now.
Wow. And that was 2015?
2015 joined, and have not looked back ever since. Before real estate, I had, career #1. I was at Morgan Stanley for about 10 years. I did recruiting work for them in their sales and trading areas, and learned a lot about the corporate culture, learned a lot about the corporate business, growing a business. And I was really intrigued by it and loved it. And I actually moved over to a search firm because I had that entrepreneurial spirit and I loved doing what I was doing, but I wanted to do it essentially for myself. So I moved over to a search firm, and I had a great run and I loved it and was having a lot of fun. But after I had both kids, I started thinking about my career and what I wanted to do. And I was getting a lot of pressure from Nikki to make the move because I had essentially built the skill set to come over to real estate. I mean, I had the corporate background. I had the, eat what you kill background. This is a good time to come over and sort of transfer my skills to real estate. So I did that almost 6 years ago. And it's been a fabulous run ever since.
Wow. So we want to talk about, we think the title of this might end up being something along the lines of turning your real estate gig into a career and turning that into a business. And that being said, being someone who's been in the Morgan Stanley for a decade, and then going into the entrepreneurial world, there's one way that world looks. What did that look like? And more importantly, what did it look like to you through that lens coming into the world of a real estate agent and a real estate team?
Well, one of the things that I didn't understand or realize is that I knew on the corporate side, everything is built around structure. And that's how I had always built sort of my career. Everything that I do is very, very structured. And on the real estate side, it looks very unstructured because you have so much capacity to build your own schedule, do it how you want. But I think as I've been in it longer and longer, people are very structured, but they're just in it in their own ways. They don't all have to be at work at the same time and leave at the same time. So there is structure, which I've learned. It's your own personal taste and how you work best. So there's some people that might work better in the morning, some that might work better in the afternoons, and they can develop their business based off of their strengths. Whereas the corporate world is you get in at a certain time and you have to be there at least until, whatever time your boss leaves, and then you figure out what time you can leave after that. So there's a more formalized structure, but it took me a long time to really get comfortable with having this control over your life.
It took me a while to get comfortable with having this control over your life. As a real estate agent, I feel the opposite. I feel like I'm just always available to everybody. Of course, I can always come up with something, but then that's not lucrative. But yeah.
So you're always available to somebody, but then again, if you're not available, nobody questions it.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
So you have control. You have control over your schedule in the sense of like, you can be at a show and you can pick up your kids from school. You're not sort of chained to an office and to a desk for 10 hours, 12 hours a day. So you're probably more productive as you sort of look at your schedule and do things that work for you.
Exactly.
Versus, being there for someone else.
So coming in, because the team was obviously established when you came in, coming into an established team, it sounds like the assumption is it's going to look a little bit more like a structured corporate world, and it doesn't. What were you thinking? Like, what were your initial thoughts? Like, was it like, WTF, what's going on with these people? Or was it like, and then how did you figure it out?
So day one, I show up at like 8:30 to the office and it's crickets. I mean, nobody's there. I was like, is it a holiday? I mean, did I miss the memo? And I was thinking I was going to be a little late because I was used to getting to the office between 7:30 and 8, but I was like, you know what, I'll do 8:30. And I'm looking around, no one's there. And I'm calling Nikki frantically and, must have called her 10 times. I'm like, where is her? Here. And she was like, it's 8:30 in the morning. She was like, no one's going to be there before 10. Like, go get some coffee, figure out where you're sitting. Like you got nothing to do right now. Yeah. So that was sort of step one, like, okay. So 10 o'clock rolls around and people start coming in, not everybody, but sort of the early birds are showing in. Some had showings before that, some hadn't. And I was like, what is going on? But I quickly learned that people set their schedule and they get into the office when whatever time works for them. But then when I got to my desk, and it's one of those, big old fashioned desktops that you don't really see anymore. Yeah. They have upgraded to screens. I will give them credit. They have upgraded to screens, but it was one of those big behemoths. And I get to my phone and it was, like a normal landline. And I was like, where's the headphone jack? I'm like, why do you need a headphone jack? These phones don't take headphone jacks.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Still don't have those. Yeah.
Like, what do you mean they don't take headphone jacks? And I was like, how do you talk on the phone and type at the same time, like, and just like be able to do things or take notes? How do you do that? Well, why would you need to do that?
That's even funny to me, even though I understand. Yeah.
It's like, so, I learned that everywhere you go, you have your notebook and your pen. I still do it. And it's different. But what I've learned over these years that the people who are really successful have tuned into what they're good at and figured out a way to make it work for them.
Yeah.
and what schedule works best for them. So there's people I know that are super successful that are up at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, emailing away, and others that go to bed at 9 o'clock and are, on email starting 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to hear from them. And it's really whatever works best for that person, how they're more productive. And that's, I think that's something we take for granted, that you can be successful based around the time frame that works well for you. You don't have to do it around a sort of a set time.
Exactly. Do you think from the beginning, when you came into this from the corporate world and what you've learned over the years, what have you learned? What is your aha, and what has been changed in your perspective?
I think in terms of, I'll start with changing my perspective, because I got to think a little bit about the aha.
Yeah.
Changing my perspective is realizing there's not one formula for everything. Like, two people can do the same thing really well and do it very, very differently. And that really has changed my perspective and how I work and how I do things, because there doesn't have to be one right way. There can be a lot of ways to get to the same result. And some people are better at doing it one way versus another. And you can't sort of, when you're training people, you can't say this is the only way. But saying, here are the building blocks to get you to where you need to be. And you need to start figuring out what suits you and what doesn't suit you. My biggest aha moment, and I know a lot of real estate agents will disagree with me, but I would say being on a team makes you more productive than being an individual agent. And the reason I say that is because, look, I know people don't like to share all this isn't an industry where people like to share. It's just not, they depend on themselves for a lot of reasons, and, their brand is built around themselves. But I think if you can learn to partner and share, and you can kind of find that yin and yang with other people, you can become so much more successful because you can learn from them. And being on a big team, there's a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different people that you can learn from. And the end result, I think, is going to make me a better agent and a more productive agent, because I have that ability to learn from a multitude of people and a multitude of perspectives. Whereas coming into it, I was always thinking, if I'm on a team and I have to share, I'm going to make less money. But you might make less money at first, but then you want to start sharing because somebody might be better than you at something else in the deal.
You're actually going to make more money at first of all, because it's so hard to break into this industry. It is like, when you break into this industry, it's like, is this really possible? This is so hard. Like, what's wrong with me? Do I smell funny? But we're on the phone. Like, what is it? Oh my God, like everybody I meet is 1,000 agents.
Yep.
But so kind of like reviewing, you came in, you experienced in the corporate world, structure is everything. You show up on the first day, nobody's even here. And yet this is supposed to be like the top team at Sotheby's and in the city most of the time. And you learned like, oh, wait a minute, there's not one formula. And having an environment where people have the flexibility or the ability to structure things in a way that, speaking of structure, that they do things best, is quite efficient.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the word I was looking for. You can be really efficient and productive once you figure out how you work best. And it's really hard at first, because I've always been trained, at least you start your work day at a certain, and I still do it, but the structure is given to you. You don't get to choose it. And I think it's hard at first to figure out what structure works for you. But once you do, you're able to be so much more efficient in your day and be more productive.
So that leads to a great question, and kind of what you were leaning to there is that in being efficient, the opportunity for that efficiency or to make your own schedule can lead to excuses to not really doing the productive activities and leaning into just doing what you feel like doing. but then the other side of that, or there's the other side of figuring out how you work well and you are productive and more efficient. How, coming from a structured environment, that probably wasn't as difficult, but what were your challenges in that and in learning the team? Because as Amanda Field, you're coming, or Amanda Field Jordan, you're coming into this team as a family member, as someone who's a little bit long-term, there's a long-term vision for you, probably, in coming, and we know there is, everybody listened to the last interview, and coming and joining this team. So wrap our heads around that so we can learn from you.
Sure. So, I think the first and most important point is that you have to work hard for yourself. Like, that's really important. You're not working hard for someone else. I mean, you're doing it for yourself, regardless if you're on a team or not on a team. I mean, but it is very easy to sort of fall on your crutch and know what you're good at and what you're not so good at. But I would say to those people coming in, and for myself, you have to push yourself to do the things that you don't know and that you're not good at, so you can make them, make your weakness a strength. And really focus on that, figure out where you are weak. And I absolutely had mine, and I wouldn't say I didn't know the intricacies of the industry. That was a huge weakness of mine. Yeah. I came in to a team where everybody had been there for, I think the newest person before me was probably there 15 years or something. I mean, there wasn't another new person to kind of show me the ropes. It's just, they had already learned it and it become second nature to them. So that was actually really quite difficult for me to figure out. You don't know what you don't know until people start shouting things at you, and you figure out. I was like, I know how to sell. It's like, I had to cold call people all day long. Warm calls are easy, but you really don't know how to sell, when someone, it's their biggest asset. You have to learn the nuances.
And on that, what did you learn? Because at the beginning, you're like, oh, it's selling. And then you're like, oh, but it's different. What did you figure out, and how did you figure it out?
So one of the things that that I actually appreciate about my executive search background is that you really learned how to read people. I mean, that's what I had to be able to do. Say, is this person, is this peg going to fit in this hole, or is this a square peg for a round hole? And that helped me immensely. But to talk the talk and to really sort of be confident in what you're saying is what I had to really learn. Because when you first start out and you don't know what you're saying, a buyer or seller can smell it. They know if you don't have confidence, they don't want to work with you. I mean, we're a dime a dozen in New York. I mean, there's tens of thousands of agents. So you need to know what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and exude that confidence. And that took me a while to learn because I wasn't confident in my skill set and my knowledge. I did have to learn the differences in, the buildings and the types of profiles of people that they take for our co-ops, and, just who would want to buy a pre-war versus a new development. I mean, there's just a lot of nuances that you need to learn in having conversations, but you also have to learn the basics as well.
Well, knowing what you're supposed to know helps give knowing helps give confidence. Thomas Wright says it best. He's like, you can't fake confidence. You just can't fake it. You got to get the experience, which goes into being on a team and having that confidence and having that credibility and learning. Do you think that kind of propels your rate at which you learn?
Absolutely. We always pair up. Everybody on our team, it's very rare if someone's taking a listing solo. We always like to have 2 or 3 people on it. There's the lead agent, the one who brings it in, and then they choose who they want to partner with. And we do our best to kind of swap up who you're partnering with, because you need to really learn and understand those different styles.
Now, that's interesting. I love that. So is it every listing, or it's a choice, or how does that work? Every listing that comes in, you partner with somebody.
So the lead agent gets to choose if they want to partner with somebody or not. I would say probably 90% of the time they decide to partner with somebody. And because it's a great selling point to the client. We're never going to miss a listing. There's 2 of us. And we're never going to miss a showing. There's 2 of us. So one of us can be free. we can arrange our
Wow.
schedule, hire us, because we can always have someone there. You're seeing who you're getting, you understand the dynamics, but we also have different relationships in the business as well. So we can work the brokers as well as the clients from different angles.
Well, and then on the partnership, so 90% of you, and did that just evolve, or is it kind of a cultural, or kind of this is what we recommend, or how did that unfold?
Nikki had started, I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, but Nikki, has always believed in partnerships, and she started it, and, it's just continued and continued and continued. And you can really choose who you want to partner with in terms of who brings on the listing.
And how does that work when you've got a primary, usually assuming like I'm on your team, I've got a listing, and the partner, it sounds like the purpose of the partner is it helps win the business, and it also makes sure somebody's always available to show the house.
Exactly.
That's the job of the partner.
But it's also, you can be good cop, bad cop when talking to the client.
Yeah.
You've got the two perspectives. You also, you also have two different ways to get, like I said before, two different ways to get to the same place. But if one way is not working, you got somebody else who might be strong in another way. So, it gives you more flexibility to figure out, how can I get this done for my client in the best possible way?
That's so smart. And then when you bring in a partner, how do the splits usually look? I'm assuming it's not 50-50, or is it? Or
It
it's
is
50-50. Wow.
50.
So even when somebody wins a listing, but they typically bring in partners that go 50-50. And it probably is if I'm bringing you in, you're going to bring me in, and then we're bringing one another in more and more deals.
Exactly. So, look, if somebody didn't want to do 50-50, I guess that's their prerogative.
But that's good to know. Yeah, because my assumption was, and that's because they're different, doing all the interviews I do, they're different mindsets and different ways of thinking about it. And that's actually brilliant, because talk about bringing some accountability in. You're getting paid half.
I'm going to give half of my commission away, but I know that somebody is going to be there to do half the work. Or I can do the work that I know I'm good at and I like to do, and somebody else can do the other half. I mean, when we had the shutdown, there were designated people on our team who were our showers. So they had to be put onto the listing. One of them got to be on every listing, because one person would manage the client, somebody else would show.
And the shower gets half the commission?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Usually you hear different situations where they've got different splits for that. So that makes the team very attractive, and it creates opportunity. The opportunity for everybody in the team, it probably creates kind of a compound effect for that. Or what is the reason for that?
How are you going to incentivize someone to partner with you? And why, if I didn't want to pay them or pay them well, why would they ever bring me on a listing? So, partnering with somebody only helps the situation, because then when you have to start asking for help, then you get into an uncomfortable situation. Do you pay someone on your team to take a showing? I mean, that would be, why not just have a partner, figure out from the beginning, you set up what the structure is going to be, who's going to take over which roles, what makes most sense based off of their skill set. And then and you can present that to the client.
Now, here's a big question the experienced agents are asking. Okay, so I have a team, I'm bringing a partner, and everybody gets that. Yes, but Amanda, you're the superstar. I heard you. I want you to be there. You have to be there to sell it.
I got that today, actually. And it's a really hard situation. I got an email back I was at a pitch yesterday.
Right.
And it was like, I will hire the team, but you have to guarantee that you will be showing it, and not the other person. And that's I think what I did, and my response, and we'll see what happens, is I'm just very honest and transparent. I hear you. I understand that. I have a partner because I can't guarantee that I can be at every showing.
Right.
I want to get this done for you in the most successful manner. And there's two of us, but we are both very capable, and I'm happy to have that relationship with whichever broker ends up bringing the buyer, I will negotiate it. It will be that I'm happy to make that solely my responsibility. But showing is really opening doors. The deal is done on the negotiations. And there's got to be two of us, or else it's not, we're not going to be the right fit for you, and we understand and respect that.
Well, it's a great thing to bring up, because you remind me of so many other things. Like, it makes me think of the difficult conversations we have to have. Eric Levy, you were in on a call that we had, a mastermind call. That guy is like killing me. I love it.
I know.
Like, okay, and he's in LA with his like New York thing going. He's like so aggressive. He's so funny. He kills me. But I
love his line though. I'm going to be the most expensive option. I'm going to tell you that up front.
Yeah, like, get it out of the way.
I use that.
You like nice things? This is where you need to go. If you don't, that's okay. You can stop by the discount store. Be fine. But and then on these difficult conversations, I want to share with you, because we have listings. Most of our listings, we show up in person. Mm-hmm. You just do your showings in person as a listing agent. I mean, pretty much all of them, right?
Yes.
Well, we do too. On occasion, we have a listing that is more appropriate to be on a lockbox. And we have clients that really like for us to be there. If we're letting the showing on lockbox, we miss showings because the volume of showings on a property, especially right now in Atlanta, under 1 million, can be excessive, and the demand can be, I need to see it now. I'm making a decision today and maybe in half an hour. So we had a situation where we had a request. It was like, well, who's going to be there? And then we reminded them that this is the protocol. We're playing baseball, not football, or basketball, not whatever. We didn't say it that way, but it's explaining that on this property, when we show it this way, this is how we get the interest and sell it. We're on the phone with them. We get them. We follow up. We're high touch. And there are other ways to handle those too, but it just reminds me again of having that up front, like, I'm here to serve you. Here's how we do it to make sure your goal gets achieved.
Exactly. You have to tell
we've got the track record, by the way.
You don't want to have these conversations at the back end. Like,
yeah.
You just don't. Just tell them up front, what your commission is, what your time frame is, how you're going to do it. And if they decide it's not right for them, that's okay, because you don't want to have an issue when you've just launched and now they're telling you, this is what I want. Well, that's great. But unfortunately, we went into this agreement with one way, and this is how we do it. And we're happy to be flexible in a lot of different things, but the structure of how our team works, we don't have that kind of flexibility. And especially in COVID times right now, it's so difficult to show, because we have to get, besides the listing aid, the buyer, the seller's approval, now buildings are asking for either 24 or 48 hours notice before.
Oh, wow.
And then they have to give approval because they want to limit the amount of outsiders, non-residents in the buildings. So it's really difficult, and you need to have it's very fluid, and you just need to have some flexibility.
And the focus, it's always like the focus, what is the goal? What's the objective here?
Exactly. Exactly. And the other thing that I know you and I were talking about before, which I also think is really important, is there's certain decisions the client needs to make themselves, because they'll depend on you to make a lot of the decisions, and you can, but there's certain decisions you need to be able to read that client and say, you have to make this decision. And that's a tough conversation, and that's a really tough conversation to have.
I love it.
You usually know the answer that you want, but you don't want to give them the answer that
the personality, I was thinking this earlier when we were talking, we weren't recording, but I was thinking about you, is that people want someone with confidence, as we just said. People want, sometimes, just tell me what to do. When it's their asset, they have got to make the decision. So what you do is you're like, I will tell you what to do. It's make a decision.
Yes.
That take the information and make sure you know the decision that's being made for you, so you get to make it, because it's such a big decision to make. It can't be made by somebody else that doesn't know all of the moving parts.
Exactly. I mean, you cannot service a client by telling them certain things that they have to decide on. And for every client, that's different.
Yeah.
But you have to lay everything out for them and make it easy. I mean, having them make anything abstract, but you don't want them to resent you for making the decisions that they should have made. And so having those tough conversations up front, I think makes for a more successful relationship with your client, because you sort of set up what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. They have to be comfortable with the mechanics of it all and how it's running. And then, when something comes up that you predicted could come up, you can go back and say, we've had this conversation, this is how we're going to do it. And it will all, have confidence that we can get this done.
I love that. Exactly. Going back to, we've been talking about efficiencies, doing business, winning business, difficult conversations with clients, and then going into, and we've even talked about I'm looking at the notes we previewed, being on a team, being more productive with the team. Now let's get a little bit like, this is what it is being in a team and your perspective from the corporate world. Now let's get up on that leadership level, because I know you've gotten a lot of perspective on leadership, a lot of training workshops. You've had a lot of focus on just really how to lead, how to run things. I know you got a lot of compliments from, I want to say mom, but it's Nikki in this case, or both, on she likes mom, but she realizes Nikki's better. But on how well you kind of can see the big picture. Give us a little bit on that.
Okay. So when I came in, my role was specifically just to do sales. But, as I was developing my skills, my sales skill set, I also wanted to help sort of form and shape the team and turn it really into a business versus, we're a team that works together, but we're not necessarily business minded because we're so far into the weeds. And so what does a business need to do to run and be successful and to grow? So I took a number of different courses and classes and there's so many great people in the Sotheby's network, talked to a lot of them to really try to understand, almost like from a franchise perspective, how do you run? If you're going to open up a franchise, how do you run? What do you look at? How do you do it? And that's what I started doing. Probably year 2 or 3 is really started saying, okay, let's start taking a step into what can we do to make this look more like a business? How can we model out, our forecast, what our year could look like? How can we start thinking about recruiting? Because Nikki's whole focus has always been just hire them when they're very junior, young, or new into the business, not necessarily young, but very new into the business, and have them grow with you, not hire an experienced person. And I had different thoughts on that. And I said, let's start looking at, okay, if you want to grow this business, it's not going to be on luck. We're just not, you can't depend on always getting, a huge deal every year. You have to figure out, okay, what are people doing? What are our average numbers? What are our good numbers? What does this year look like? And talking to different businesses in terms of what forecasting models they use, and seeing how you can plug in the numbers to figure out what works for you. So this year I had, in January 2020, I had plugged in a model, and then, March, I had to delete it. And I was like, okay, what do we do? So I learned how they were forecasting our office. I called and I asked, and I was like, look, can you tell me what predictions you're making, how you're doing it, and let me take that information and plug in our numbers. So I did. I used what they were doing for the office, and we came within 2 million of what our total goal was.
Wow.
And so before that, we never would have thought to do that. So we're like, okay, so this is probably where we're going to end up. I mean, obviously there's a variance, but I took their model. Obviously we used the number that they gave us, and we came within 2. And then, we did a plus or minus, and we changed it each quarter to see, are we going to hit that target? Are we not? And it was, everybody on the team was like, oh my goodness. And I think
keep going.
There was an aha moment.
Yeah.
That we can now start figuring out how, what are we doing? Is it going to be a bad year? Is there certain areas we need to ramp up? Are we having a really good year? I mean, really start looking at those numbers, owning those numbers, understanding them, because before it was just at the end of the year, oh, your team did this number. It's great. There was never this, okay, focus on where are we, how are we doing, and what do we need to do to achieve this goal? Or is this goal just totally aspirational and we need to reset ourselves?
Well, Kitty, how many agents at the end of the year, they sell, 50 million is a great number in Atlanta. And they're like, oh God, but now I have to do it again. And we're talking agents doing like 30 million, which is also big. I mean, like that's a top agent in Atlanta. And they're like, but I gotta do it again. Right. And there's no, like the anxiety and the uncertainty. So in forecasting models, what are the how do you know? What are the big tips on how do you do that without getting too complicated? Because obviously maybe it is, or is it?
I mean, you have to look at averages, at a 5-year average of how you've done. Sometimes you just have to look to see, okay, well, in this clip where we had up and down markets, what was my average? Does that make sense for the current market right now? You have to look back in order to look forward. And this year we really had to pivot in terms of who our client base was. We've always really focused on more of the higher end, but all of a sudden we saw so much activity at the low end of the market. And so half our team just focused on that under 2 million market. And there was just so much more volume in that market than we had ever done before, because that wasn't our focus, but we were sort of tracking the numbers, looking at the data. So we did that. And then we saw a lot of data, a lot of the developments were calling us, basically saying, we're having a fire sale. Find your luxury investors or luxury owners that are looking for, I don't want to call it depressed properties, because they weren't. These are great properties, but it's on sale and you're going to get an incredible deal. And so we started looking at that. So in terms of our number, we got within 2 million of what we were predicting, but how we got there was very different from last year, because last year we were a listings heavy team. This year we were a buyer heavy team, and our, average price came down, but we did so much, our volume had skyrocketed because we were able to sort of figure out, okay, well, this is what's happening in the market. How do we pivot? This is going to sound crazy, but being a big team, you can almost be more nimble, because you can have certain people focused in one area, certain people focused on another area based on relationships.
Trying to do everything to make sure everything stays okay.
Exactly.
And then you talked about being nimble, goals, shifting, adjusting. What is your, when you make those changes so quickly, like how are you, because it sounds like, because your model was based, well, I'm answering the question out loud. The model was based on what you predicted the year before, but you change every quarter. First of all, that's the first question, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you're changing every quarter,
or you're modifying each quarter, you look at how you did, you take what number you think you're going to hit on that quarter and see where you landed. And
do you divide it by 4, or do you look at how much volume you did? Because I would think in the first 3 months, maybe it's slower. In the first 6 months, you should be like 75% of the way. And in the last month, you should maybe have 5%. The last quarter, maybe you need to have 5% to go, or I'm guessing.
Well, I mean, in New York this year, only the first and fourth quarters counted because we were closed for such a long time.
Yeah.
So, and generally speaking, I would say, the first quarter is, the first half of the year is generally more robust than the second half of the year. But this year, the fourth quarter was our best quarter.
Wow.
And so it can vary.
So when you're analyzing quarter by, like this quarter, when you look at things, or last year when you were looking at things, first quarter probably looked on track?
Absolutely. First quarter, our year over year first quarter, we were up significantly.
And second quarter, you're like, are we gonna make half what we made last year?
Oh, we're like, count your pennies, people. We're not making anything this year. Like, just assume that our year is done.
But even though you said that, you made adjustments.
We made adjustments because, we didn't know what was going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
13th, the city shut down and real estate in New York was considered non-essential. No showings allowed. You could
Wasn't
not
that
go.
the only city in the whole country that does that?
Real estate is non-essential. Yep, exactly.
Right.
So, you have to figure out what do you need to do. And
Yeah.
you make your adjustments, but you also have to expect the worst and hope for the best.
Well, on that time, this is kind of a random, but kind of not. But in doing that, did you refocus even on referrals? Because you got a lot of people coming out of New York into places like Aspen and Vail and I don't know where else, but Atlanta. I mean,
It was a
yeah,
huge focus of our business was referrals.
because they're moving out.
They're moving out, and
More
we're sending
referrals coming in this year than ever for the same reason. Yeah.
Yeah,
We had here.
we had people that wanted to buy, and those those were virtual sales. We did a lot of virtual sales that we've never done before.
I'm thinking about outgoing referrals. You're still talking about in people moving in.
Both.
Okay.
I would say it was both. We sent out more outgoing referrals this year than we ever have, for obvious reasons. People are just, they're leaving the city. We can't call people fast enough, but it's also, talking about delicate conversations, talking to someone, oh, you're leaving. Where are you going? Can I get you,
Right.
Yeah.
Let me get something else on the way out.
Exactly. I know you have a house there, but maybe you want one somewhere else.
And they do. They did. It's crazy. Like, who written this movie? Because people have been like, if you've written a movie about what happened, people have been like, I don't believe it because it makes no sense. It's dumb. But it's what happened.
It's just right. They were just, leaving the city as fast as they could to, if they had second homes, their second home, and then trying to figure out, do they want to stay there or go somewhere else? So we were sending out referrals, but and I think we all learned a big lesson. You just have to touch people. You have to continuously touch people. Mm-hmm. Even if it's saying our market is shut down. Okay, our market is shut down, but we know what's going on in all of these other markets. Let us help you find the right person to secure your next.
And what an opportunity. I always say in everything, especially in our business and in prosperity and abundance of life, especially working with everybody, but wealthy people are becoming successful, saving them time. Mm-hmm. They had problems, solving their problems. And most of all, when the problem hit, you saw the opportunity.
Exactly.
You saw the opportunity and you harnessed it. Looks like a disaster, but there was opportunity.
And the other thing we did was the incoming. We went out to everyone we know and we said, New York, and it still is, it's starting to come back, but New York is on sale. If you know somebody that's ever wanted to buy in New York, regardless of your price point,
that was the time.
This is what we need to do. I would say the most difficult thing, actually, shockingly, was that our team, one of the weaknesses of our team that I had plotted out was technology. And now this year it's a strength, but we had to realize we need to get videos. We need to figure out how can we let people do this virtually, because we can sell these listings if people can go through them virtually. We may not be able to get you in the building, but we've got this video or we've got this 3D tour, whatever it may be. You can at least get some sort of comfort level in terms of what are you buying given the price point.
Okay, next question. Leadership. So we talked about coming in on the ground, all the craziness of being in the corporate world and being the daughter and kind of finding your way in. Now you're officially the salesperson. Now you're looking at how the team runs, growing the team. You guys are international. You have desks in 5 other countries and you're growing more and more. You're the number 1 team in I was going to say Atlanta, in New York City, and Sotheby's International Realty. And now we're looking at and getting those models and forecasting. So you look like a team in a franchise. The next thing though, is in doing that, there's people, and in people, there's a necessity for leadership. What's your advice on really leading a team well for the vision that you have, that anybody has?
I would say, in order to really lead, you have to know who has what strengths and be able to let those people lead as well. So if somebody's really good at X and you know that they are just sort of the best at this, give them the ball on that and let them run with it. You don't, just because you're the leader doesn't mean you have to micromanage everything. You just have to be sort of the visionary and figure out, how do I get it done? And who's best to get it done, and empower people to feel like leaders and to lead, whatever they're best suited on, to give that information to the team, to help people grow. But it's really empowering the team and empowering the people on their team to do their best and to help you grow. I mean, you all have the same objective. The other, sorry.
No, well,
the other thing that's important is that, you can never ask someone to do something you can't do for yourself. I mean, I think that's the cardinal rule.
I love that. Okay. So 2, number 1, be the visionary. And then being the visionary, you've got to think about, what is the vision? How do I get it done? And not just how, but who is going to do it best, and know that.
Exactly. And empower that person to do it. Don't make them put your...
Being a leader means making more leaders.
That is the best thing I've heard.
Well, I just said what you said.
No, but you said
we got it right. And then, so be a visionary, which is know what you want. Next, know how you're going to get it done, and know which people are the best to do it. And in doing that, remember, just because I'm a leader doesn't mean I'm doing it. It means being a leader is making other leaders and knowing who the right people are to do it. Mm-hmm. The other thing you said is, don't ask anyone to do something you can do. Give us a great example of that.
I mean, I just feel like in this day and age, people ask, it can really be almost anything now. People always
coffee.
Scheduling. Like, I mean, I think there's people that can do, something like that. I mean, and I'm not saying not to ever ask them, but make sure that everyone has seen you do everything. You can always ask for help, but make sure that there's not something, I would never do that. Whether it's getting a cup of coffee, doing my schedule, doing the board package, whatever it may be, everyone needs to see you be able and to be competent to do everything.
That makes the point, because lead by example.
Yes, exactly.
So I'll give you an example. Like, I just can't do my scheduling. I do as much as I can, but I remember I got to a point one day where every single day my life was trying to do things, and I literally was panicked about getting things scheduled, from showings to listing appointments to buyers to whatever to phone calls. And I was like,
but you delegate, then that makes you more successful. You got to delegate it, but you can do it, and you can teach somebody how to do it.
But everybody listening, it's like, you delegate when you get there. You prepare for success, but be careful you know how to do it first, because when you're in the weeds doing it first, you can lead by example.
100%. And there's just, sometimes people, you just want to make sure that people have seen you do the small and the big. You got
to be able to do the small.
Yeah, because there's going to be a time where you may be in a crunch and you can't do it. There's somebody that's not there to do it. You got to be able to do it in order,
And when you have team problems and challenges, you got to know what it takes to do it, to know where the problem is. It is in the delivery, is the person, is the situation. It's always the situation.
100%.
Which leads me to a story. I am not being interviewed, but is to your point, and I'd love to get your thoughts.
Please tell me.
Elon Musk. There's a book about him. I've gotten like a little bit through it, and I lost. I gotta go find it again because it's great. But it talks about his story and becoming successful, and in part of his career, because as leaders we often get criticized for micromanaging, and it's drawing that line between micromanaging and becoming successful. And I think for a long time I got too involved, because I thought I was just supposed to delegate and just get them to just do it, instead of leading by example. On the flip side of that, when you lead by example, it's easy to get sucked into micromanaging. But here's the relevance. Elon Musk, we see it, that dude has like how many businesses that are running, and of course he had 100-something million that he got to invest to get it started, but that's just all the more stuff to manage and take care of. In doing that, he tells stories about how he can remember hiring people to program stuff, and he's caught, like, just let me do it for you, and he would go do it. And so that was a big thing for me, to your point, like lead by example, or don't do anything, don't ask people to do something you can't do. You've got to be able to do it, to know when it's done well. And he would get sucked into it, but he got sucked into it to get it done right, to be able to lead by example. And then it takes a lot of discipline, remembering to step back away.
Exactly. I mean, it's so much easier for you to do everything yourself. That it is. It's
I've learned
easier.
not to, but it's tough.
But
Yeah.
but it is. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. But for you to be very productive, you have to be able to ask for help. Now to teach, then you have to teach someone how to do it and how to, and then you have to, if it's not going the way you like it,
Right.
you have to teach them. You can't just keep doing it because it's always going to be broken. You have to say, okay, no, this is this, and this is what needs to be changed. But you have to know how to do it and have to be able to do it.
And you have to be willing to slow down and show, in the last year, I've always kind of just been the agent, kind of had people in the team, and we're a legit team, like the field team.
You're a big team.
We've got less than you, but we've really, like, you don't get there how you got here. You know that saying, you don't get there how you got here. It's like at some point you've got to make sure the value, back to empowering, the value of making sure people, the balance of not micromanaging, but making sure you're leading by example. I mean, it's really, it's to what you said, it's really what you said. I just paraphrased it into that, is in doing that, it gives you a way to continue to help people do their job and remember, and that keeps you from, sometimes people delegate and let it go and they wonder why their team doesn't work and it crashes because they're not truly asking people to do things they won't or can't do. And it's the leading by example.
And you also have to remember, I think you hit the nail on the head, when to step away. You have to go back and teach them, and then when to step away. And then that person might become better than you at whatever that,
which is the idea.
Was. Exactly.
That's
what you want. You want to be able to grow somebody, but you need to be able to do everything, to show them how to do it, to teach them, and then let them be able to take on that responsibility.
Yeah, we had a big talk on the team the other day. There were some things that they were kind of slipping, and I was like, guys, listen here. We have a lot of men on our team. I think we might be 50-50, but this was one guy and girls. I was like, you guys, Jack, we call him the glue. I'm like, Jack's doing too much for us. Is he #girl power? Where's the girl power? Start telling Jack what to do. Don't let Jack do your job for you, right? Like, we're in it together. Like, everybody, like, step in.
You have to empower everybody.
Empower. We're all here together, like the Ritz-Carlton model. There's nothing I won't do. If I see about the bathroom needs some help, I go and do it because I know how. But at the end of the day, I'm going to focus on my job to empower you to do your job.
Exactly. And that's how you're going to grow, be more successful, be more profitable.
Love it. Okay. Final 3 questions, unless there's anything else we want to add to that.
No, that's perfect.
So I'm going to paraphrase what we've talked about, everybody, and then we're going to do the final 3. Number 1, in breaking into the business, it's knowing your business, and it's learning what you don't know quickly, and then having confidence. That was really it, just learning and having confidence. Exactly. Breaking the industry into sales. Coming into it on a team. Being on a team aligns you with people. You can move faster, you gain credibility, you can win business, you can share, collaboration. And then taking it into that, you in your business are now really focused on learning and understanding leadership as a member of the field team and being basically a partner with your mom. And the tips in leadership there were 2 things we really talked about. One of them was forecasting and seeing the team like a team and a business, and forecasting your business to the future, knowing how to do that and doing that all the time and being able to adjust and be nimble. The next thing was in leading people. And in leading people, it was 2 things: being the visionary. And in being a visionary, you've got to know what the vision is, what you want, how you're going to get it, and who the best people are on the bus to do it, because you're going to lead by making other people leaders. That is a great leader. Number 2, don't ask anybody to do something that you won't do or can't do. Lead by example. Know your business. Gary V, not to cheese out on some Gary V, which I think he is from New York. Clouds and dirt. He always talks about that. Exactly. All right. Anything I missed in there?
No, that was everything.
Just wanted to sum that up for everybody. Final 3 questions, which we've done these before, but we're going to have fun with them in case they've changed. Number 1, and then as it relates to our conversation today, in going from looking at people can just jump into real estate. How do they actually make it a career? And how do you really turn it into a business? What has been your biggest tool and resource in doing that for the field team and yourself?
People, people, people.
Same answer.
Same answer. Talk to as many people as possible in your industry, outside of your industry, in your city, outside of your city. I mean, learn as much as you possibly can. There's so much information out there. Try and just, suck it all in. But people are your best asset.
So people, and then people learn and connect. Always learning, always connecting.
Yep.
All right. So now for the second question. If there is a book as it relates to this conversation or at all that you most recommend, we got to read, what is it?
Strengths-based leadership. If you're going to lead a team or actually just leading in general, this is a fabulous book to read. It is by Don Clifton.
Okay, so everybody, we actually had to pause this because Amanda was like, I'm finding this book. It got edited. You're not going to see it because she's like, this is it. So tell us.
The second book is Ninja Selling.
Oh, good. Ninja Selling.
And that's for, that's how you take your job as a real estate agent, turn it into a career, and then make that career a business. You use the tips and tools of Ninja Selling.
Ninja Selling. And I forget his name. What's his name?
Larry Kendall.
Larry Kendall. So Ninja Selling. And then we all know about Ninja Selling because that's the 20th time it's been recommended on the show. And it's a great book. It's all about really, I think, just thinking about your career as a career, not just selling and fulfilling and contributing and it's things like that, right? Which is kind of our show.
Yep.
The other one, anything you want to add to Ninja Selling before I ask you about the other books? No. I'm excited to hear about this other book. Strengths-based leadership. I mean, clearly that book has really done something for you. Give us a little bit on that.
So the book is broken into 3 parts, and it's basically yourself. How do you lead? Then how do you sort of lead a team? How do you maximize your team? And then the third part, which I don't want to botch, is understanding why people will follow you.
Oh, so
and I think that's actually the most important part. But the first 2, you can't get to the third part without going through the first 2.
So number 1 is it just, you said yourself? Was that it? It's about yourself?
Yeah, just sort of learning your strengths and how you can put those into leadership skills and leadership abilities. 2, how do you take those strengths and really lead a team and maximize your team? How do you empower people to to be the best version of themselves? And 3, why are those people going to follow you? I mean, what have you done? You've just empowered them. Why are they now going to continue to follow you? It's full circle.
Okay, so question on that. Earlier, we didn't hit on this much, but we talked about it a lot. You talked about in growing your team. We were talking about, in the team and growing your business part of our interview, that there was almost maybe a disagreement. I don't know if that's too strong a word or not, but Nikki was like, we bring in new agents, that's who comes to us. And you're like, no. We need to get seasoned agents if we're really going to take this to the next level. Is that part of, did you get some of that out of the book, or what did you learn for the book to apply that?
So I got a lot of that out of the book, and we made a few hires of seasoned agents. I think our biggest and best hire, and we'll never make a bigger hire than this, was we had Mara Flash Bloom join our team last January, and she's the number 1 producing agent individual. She was the number 1 producing individual agent downtown, and now she's brought something to our team that so many people have learned from. She's been in the business just as long as Nikki and Kevin. We also hired other people with experience, let's call it in the 5 to 15 year mark. But sort of learning, I think the biggest question that somebody with experience tackles is, why should I join a team? I know I can do this. I'm happy doing this, but why should I join a team? And I think from everybody that we've hired that has experience, they've realized what a team can give them and how they can become more nimble in what they do. But it's really getting into understanding that person and how can you help lead that person, because they were all very successful in their own rights. So how to make continue that success, but also sort of share that and take it to the next level and help sort of grow their business. I mean, being on a team is almost like a succession plan. You know, you've got this business, but you want to keep it going and perpetuating it. So how do we do that? There's lots of different personalities. There's lots of different ways people do things, but how can we be a cohesive unit? And this book really helps sort of learn how to lead people with all different types of backgrounds and predispositions for different things. But I would say it helped me with that. And it took Nikki a while to come to the conclusion that we should hire people with experience, because she couldn't answer that question. Why would someone join a team? And now I think she's learned that we do have so much to offer that it doesn't matter if you have experience or don't have experience. I mean, we can help, you know, we have a lot to offer for both profiles.
I think teams give agents what brokers used to give agents. Brokers have gotten so big, it's more scaled now to really be able to make a profit because of technology and the changes in our industry, that a team, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there, but I may be completely wrong, but sometimes I sense that's a little bit of what it is, between the support and the camaraderie and the credibility and I mean, there's no thinking about any of the support you've got to bring in. It's just there.
Exactly. And that's a huge thing. If you are, you know, if you're sort of, if you don't have any support, it's huge that somebody's there to just do your marketing for you. You know, there's such infrastructure. There's someone there to bounce ideas off of.
One quick question on support, and then we'll close this out with the last question. But when you guys are supporting agents, because do you how far do you go? Are you doing like every brochure and every social media post personally for them? Or are you doing like, here's the team marketing that they can engage to and do their own thing on top of? Or what does that look like for team members?
So for marketing, we do everything, and people can add on to it, but like we do 100% of their social marketing, 100% of their e-blasts, everything that you have for your listing. If there's something individual that you want to do, like your own, video tour.
So like the social media, are you plugging into their personal social media accounts, or you have the team account and they can like share it off the team account?
We send them what to put in their like we send them, the new
list. They gotta actually do it.
We can't, you can't go into someone's.
Well, you can, but that's what I'm asking.
So we send them.
We do all of that, but I'm like, okay, guys, like at what point, like, where do I stop? Like, am I just going to do it for you? Anyway.
So we said, literally, Sylvia, our marketing director, sends you an email, says, this is what you do. This is how you upload it. Here's everything you're going to send. And does it. But all the e-blasts, all the active pipe, we take care of 100% of that.
That's awesome. And you're doing, it's all team stuff. You don't customize it for
of course we do.
Members. So you customize it for all of your 20 members.
If somebody wants something customized, it will be customized.
Oh, awesome. But otherwise they get what they get, or?
Well, so.
That's where they go ahead. They probably engage with the marketing director, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, for listing information and listing marketing, they do it. But like for our market report, yeah, our marketing director will individually customize it for you. If you want to change something, add something, whatever you want, it will be fully customized for you.
Perfect.
We just don't break into their social accounts and hit upload. They have to do that. But you get the email, it's idiot proof. If I can do it, anybody can do it. It's Perfect. Like you literally download the picture, you hit upload, hit copy and paste on what your caption is, and you hit send, and you're done.
Awesome. I love it. So that just, because a lot of people say, well, this team does that, but what does that really mean? At what level does it go? That answers a lot of those questions, especially for a team as powerful and awesome as yours. Last question. If there's one thing you hope we remember to take away from this interview, if we're just going to forget everything else, what is it?
I got to say the same thing as last time. New York is still on sale. And
okay, then you have to say two. But yeah, New York is on sale.
New York is on sale. We're happy to help sell anybody a property or sell their property if they've left. Two is their strength in numbers. Partnering is something that will help your career. It's not going to hurt it. I know there's a lot of fear that people have, whether it's partnering on a deal, partnering their business in general, but partnering helps. Getting other perspectives help. I mean, it really does. You have to be able to see everything, and people with they just can't. Everyone comes with their own perspective, and to have two on something is just invaluable.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. If you like this episode, please share it with friends. To find more episodes, search Jere Metcalf Podcast on any platform for podcasts, or go to JereMetcalfPodcast.com. That's JereMetcalf podcast.com.